Hello, everyone, and hope you're having an amazing day. And you're now listening to the Millennium Fellowship presents
The Social Impact Stories with Srijan and Vlada. Welcome. This is the podcast where we interview the Millennium Fellows, the social impact students, and global leaders.
And today we have a very special guest here with in our virtual studio, the executive assistant of the Millennium Campus Network, James Odhiambo. He is currently with his team leading 2,000 Millennium Fellows, which is a huge responsibility.
So we thank you so much, James, that you took the time and you came to us. And we would like you first to introduce yourself to our listeners. So go ahead.
Thank you so much, Srijan, Vlada. Really love the intro. Really love the energy in the room. Honestly, I'm a clueless, idealistic young kid from Nairobi in Kenya, who's too loud sometimes and too quiet other times, and has many hobbies and yet still spends most of his time alone. But on a serious note, though, my name is James Odhiambo. I'm executive assistant at the Millennium Campus Network. I'm also a final year law student at the University of Nairobi in Kenya, and I like to consider myself a global citizen. I like to meet new people from all around the world. I like to network, find people of similar mindsets and similar passions, and then just interact and learn from each other and grow together. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited for this.
We're really excited to have you here too. And as you have already mentioned, a global citizen, and you have always been associated with this social impact works from a very young age and achieved so many things at the same time, like winning the King Constantine Medal at the age of 18, being a Peace First Grantee. So, and obviously not to mention being a Millennium Fellow and Campus Director. So please walk us through this journey of your social impact and maybe about the project that you have been working on.
Thank you, Srijan. Of course, I grew up in a space where I grew up in a closed off community because I grew up with my aunt and she was a police officer, and we stayed in a police camp throughout my whole childhood, and just seeing the community and the togetherness that is fostered within that shared space was beautiful for me. We didn't have much money, we didn't have the resources, but we had each other, and that's what made life bearable for me. And so I've always had that passion to interact, to build communities, and to find ways in which we can work together to make communities better places to live in. So that's where I sort of got my hunger for creating impact, for fostering connections. And then back in high school, I got a chance to volunteer at a children's home. It was called Good Samaritans Children's Home. It's in a slum in Nairobi called Kayole. And we'd go there over the weekends and spend time helping the caretakers of the kids to plan the week and to help them arrange clothes, clean the area, that kind of thing. But then there's a day we went and the lady who was in charge of the children's home was crying because she's run this children's home for more than 30 years. At the time she had, at least. And the community had fallen in love with her, of course, but it had also started to see her as a way to, quote unquote, I hate to say this, but escape responsibility, if that makes sense. And so sometimes you find young mothers who are not able to take care for their children, have dumped their children right outside her gate, and she'd take them and take care of them. So that week she'd found a kid who'd been abandoned outside her gate, was barely a year old, very, very beautiful and but painful to see. And we were there, and then we saw how genuinely hurt she was by that, and how genuinely eager she was to give this child a good life, and that made us feel a deep sense of I don't know how to put it, but it was a very powerful moment for us. And so at that moment we created an impact project called Giving Simplified with two of my friends. And what we started doing was collecting clothes, books, and the likes, and just donating it through that children's home. And then we spread out to a couple of children's home around Nairobi. And then these were the beginnings of my social impact journey. Since then, I've always had that hunger. Whenever I see something that can be fixed, I want to fix it, or I want to play a part, and I want to be visible, and I want to be loud about it. That's been my character ever since I was a child. So yeah, and that's where it all began, and I'm happy now. I'm helping guide the fellowship, helping deliver the experience to 2,000 leaders around the world, and playing a small tiny part in making the world a better place.
Oh, that sounds so inspiring and so amazing. Thank you so much, James, for sharing all that. So another question that we've got for you is, since you have such a great experience in social impact, and you have plenty of stories, I'm sure, and since we have our listeners as Millennium Fellows and just students who are interested to take their social impact on another level, what advice would you give them about starting their journey? Or for those who are in their journey right now, what would you advise them?
I'll first, thank you for that question, Vlada. I'll first give a disclaimer and say I'm not an expert, I'm a learner. I'm barely 23, so I'm also in this journey, just learning stuff as I move. But the one thing I'd say is, focus on your why. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why do I care? And why does it matter? And I think that's the most important thing, is knowing that there's a reason that is so deep for me, and that is why I'm engaged in this project, or that is why I'm part of this fellowship. And so in that introspection, you can find purpose, if that makes sense. And then, the second advice is, after you feel that you know why you're doing it, close your eyes and take the leap, because it's very hard to start. And then sometimes you'll be scared, and there's nights where you'll spend questioning yourself and battling imposter syndrome and wondering whether you're good enough, or whether this is a path that's really, for you. But I'm sorry for that interruption. But
No,
even
okay.
Yeah, even in the face of self-doubt, even in the face of adversity, in the face of difficulty, you must be mentally prepared to always bet on yourself and believe that you'll conquer. So that's the only advice I've given.
That is a very powerful advice, actually. Like, yeah, the social impact works are very tough, and when you know exactly why you're doing it, ask yourself that question, and then finally you have the answer, then obviously you'd have the power to go on and keep pushing your work, because that is all about creating social impacts, like we discuss in our own training sessions, like being a sidekick of that story. So that's amazing advice for everyone who is listening to this podcast. Vlada, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I in general wanted to say that James is such a great guest for our, more of a official first episode, because first one, it is the first official one where you meet on both of us. So wonderful. But still, this is our first guest. And thank you so much, James, for starting it so well. And thank you so much for coming and sharing all of your social impact stories with us. And I'd like to thank our listeners for also dropping by and listening to us. But we'll see you soon with another episode this week. But on this note, bye.